Hey everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Yak with Mac. The struggle can be real. Listen in as I talk about how we get past those struggles. Listen in. Hey there everybody, this is Kenny back with another edition of the Yak with Mac. I am so pumped up. You know, I've been on PTO, so I was out last week. I'm actually still on PTO, but I gotta talk to the people. I really feel so inspired, so rejuvenated. Make sure you're taking your vacation. I've got so much running around this little brain of mine when it comes to leadership and some things to really inspire and help you. So leaders, this is the place to come to. This is the place to come to for inspiration and encouragement. And we want to inspire you to just be outstanding influencers. It's not enough to just be a great leader these days or to be a great manager. You've got to influence your people to greatness. That's how tough our business is these days, right? Okay, so I kind of want to bring back an oldie. This was on my mind the last couple of days. I spoke about this on a podcast maybe 3 years ago. And so we've heard this expression, the struggle is real. We all been there, right? We know that the struggle absolutely can be real. So if you think about, and I used this analogy 3 years ago, and my teams, well, my Knicks team got much better, but the Giants and Jets, not so much. In football, the Mets, they're holding on. The Yankees having a little bit of a disappointing first half of the season here. But when you think about sports teams and the ebb and flow, let's say, of a baseball season, it's 162 games long. And so there's going to be those periods where teams are going to struggle. Now, if you're not a good team, you're probably going to struggle most of the year. You still may get a week or two or even longer than that where the team does well. But there's going to be those struggles, right? And they're absolutely real. And it could be a lack of talent. It could be injuries. It could be a bunch of reasons why. But if you're a really good team, the struggle might be real for a very short period of time. You see, a week in a 162 game season is really just a little blip on the radar. And so I want to come back to that point in just a bit, because while the struggle may be real, you can't fall into the trap. It's a trap, right? Of now losing self-doubt and losing confidence in yourself. And I'm going to get into 3 specific tips I want to give you for getting past those struggles, which can be real. You could lose a couple of employees for whatever reason. You could all of a sudden find yourself short-staffed, whether you're in a call center or whether you're in a retail store. All of a sudden, if you're down 3 or 4 people, that's a struggle that's real, right? How do you get past that? Well, you also know that's not going to last forever, right? You're going to be able to hire. You're going to be able to train and replace. That might take a little while. Or maybe you get somebody transferred in or moved in. That also could sometimes take a little bit of time. So think about it in this perspective. We've had some really bad weather across the whole country. Here in the Northeast, it's just been raining like crazy. I know out to my friends out west, it's just been crazy hot. It seems like it's going to last forever, but it's not. It doesn't rain for like 30 days straight. Sometimes it stops. The sun comes out. So think about your struggles as a storm that you're going to get past. There is absolutely no doubt that you'll get past it. Okay, let me give you 3 tips on how to get past those struggles, which again can definitely be real. Okay, tip number 1, you've got to avoid this trap, the trap of self-doubt, the trap of losing confidence. Last night was the home run derby in baseball, and I watched some of it. I didn't watch all of it. My guy, Pete Alonso, won it. But you could see some of the players, when they had 3 or 4 balls that didn't go over the fence, start to lose that confidence. And they started to do what I always used to give my managers advice not to do. They started to squeeze the bat. They started to really get nervous. They started to swing at pitches that wasn't there. And they very quickly found themselves out of the competition. So that self-doubt and self-confidence, they let it go ahead and seep in. Instead of taking a moment, taking a time out taking a step back and saying to yourself, hey, I got this. And so I have some really specific things on how you stay away from the trap of losing your confidence and having all that self-doubt. Think about the 100 or so things that you just did well over this past month or over a weekend. Maybe you struggle for a weekend. Think about all of the things that your team did right. And think about all of the things that you did right. That is a way to keep yourself out of that trap of falling and sinking deeper into self-doubt and losing your confidence. Think about this as well. Think about if you don't have any confidence. Remember, I've said this on several podcasts, not lately, that your team watches every single thing you do. I don't care where you're a leader at. Your team watches every single thing you do. I guarantee you, put this to the test. Just ask them what you did when you just walked into your office or your store. They watch every single thing you do. They should. You're their leader. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you've lost confidence, if you have a lot of self-doubt now, if you think you're not going to be a good leader, how is that going to impact and affect your team? If you don't want them to sink into that same trap, you've got to be able to get past things really fast. And you get past things by thinking about all the things you did right. How did you get into this position? How did you get promoted? Who made the decision to hire you? Why did they make that decision to promote you and hire you? You've got to be able to get past that self-doubt, because your team will sink into that and they will go all the way down. All of you have seen this or have been part of a team that you know is sinking very fast because the leader is sinking. So as a leader, you also have to be able to compartmentalize the pressure that comes from up top, right? That's for you. That doesn't mean that that pressure can roll right downhill and you give it to the rest of your team. You certainly want to course correct behavior. You want to coach. You want to do some things differently. And I'll get into the number two reason in a second, our number two way that you avoid that struggle is real trap. But you've got to be able to shield. That's part of your job as a leader. You've got to be able to shield everything that comes from the top, because that's for you. And now you've got to take that and, hey, figure out, how do I now get this message down to my team? The last thing you want to do as a leader is say that, you know what, my director told me you guys stink and we got to do better. Unfortunately, I've heard some leaders do that in the past. That is a total cop-out. You've got to be able to compartmentalize, receive that message, and then translate it down to your team. So don't let them sink. Don't let yourself fall into the self-doubt, self-confidence. Think about all of the things that made you great, because you are great. If you're watching this, you're a leader, you are great. You've got some great qualities that you're hopefully constantly working on and evolving. Think about those things that you did right. Here's the second way to stay out of that struggle trap. Let's say you had a really bad weekend, whatever. If you're in a call center, if you're in an office somewhere, if you're in a store, if you're one of my metro doors, let's say you had a really bad weekend. Well, you got to really analyze and see what went wrong. Again, think about all those things that went well, because I'm sure a lot of things did, but you've got to self-analyze and figure out the things that did wrong. And then I'm going to say it 3 times. Plan. Come up with a plan for those things that did wrong and execute the heck out of it. You see, when you do that, it takes you and your team's focus away from the failure, because now you're focusing on the plan and what you're going to do that following weekend. How you're going to capture that traffic that came in that you didn't capture this past weekend. Whatever the case may be. Plan. Come up with a really specific plan. Get very granular about it and just drill that into yourself and into your team. And guess what? How you're going to be feeling the next week. That previous weekend is going to be way in the rearview mirror. You're not going to even think about it. All right. Here's my third thing. I've said this a lot in the past, probably again, not recently, but you have to be an inspirer instead of a motivator. There's a time and place for motivation, but I want you to really think about the differences between inspiration and motivation. Motivation is very short term. Motivation typically is, hey, I'm throwing out a contest for the weekend. or I'm just going to slap people on the back because they did a great job. I'm going to constantly motivate them. Rah, rah, rah. I might put on a video in the morning. Don't hear what I'm not saying. All of that is great. You need motivation. There's no doubt about it. Some people really need motivation. Some people like myself don't really need motivation. I get it from a lot of different sources. I love to watch a video here myself, but I don't need other people to so much motivate me. But a lot of people do. They especially need to hear that from their leaders. Inspiration, the difference on that is that it's long term. It is long term. So let me give you an example. Let's stick with, hey, I had a bad stretch, a couple of days, a weekend, whatever. To motivate your team, you may say, hey, listen, guys, I'm going to throw out a contest to you for these next couple of days. We're not going to let that happen again. You guys are fantastic. Let's just go out and do it. That's fantastic. Nothing wrong with that. But if you want something to stick long term, tell a story about yourself. Listen, team, I really felt really bad that I let you guys down this past week. That maybe I wasn't there for you. That maybe we didn't come up with a great plan for you. But you guys in the last 6 months have done this, 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 and this. You are a phenomenal, phenomenal team. Let's get back to doing those things that we've been doing for the last 6 months. And now here is my long-term plan for us, not just for this weekend, but for every weekend coming up, or for every week and every month that's coming up. Here is my plan for that. I need all of my great people on my team to help me to execute this. That's inspiration, right? Because now you're causing people to think and look back and say, he's right, she's right. We've done a lot of great things. So what? We had a little bad stretch. That's a blip on the radar when you look at the full picture, the big picture of the whole year, of the last 6 months, the first half of the year, whatever. So that is inspiration. Lean back on your character. Lean back on all of the great things and relationships that you've built with your team. When you do have that struggle, that can be real. The struggle can be real. So 3 things to get past it. Erase that self-doubt and that lack of confidence. Erase that really, really quick. Think about the great things that you've done, which there are many. Plan, plan, plan. Look at the things that you didn't do so well and have a plan of attack so that it doesn't repeat itself. And the last one is continue to inspire. Inspire instead of motivate when you have a really, really bad struggle. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I have got some guests. I know it's just been me for a little bit. It might just be me next week too, but I have got some guests that have given me their word that they're coming on. And I'm going to leave one as a surprise because that person I think is so, so inspirational and carries a lot of responsibility within T-Mobile. So can't wait to sit down and interview and talk to them and see the inspiration that comes out of them. Make sure you are taking those 10 minutes, 15 minutes, not 10, 15 minutes a day for self-development for yourself. But for now, this is Kenny. This has been another edition of the Yak with Matt. We will talk to you next week.